Aijaz Qureshi from Toronto, Canada, with today's episode of the Daydreamers Show. Today, our topic is very, very interesting, and you don't want to miss this topic because we are going to discuss how to create innovative ecosystem. And to talk about creating an innovative ecosystem is our expert, Dr. Armen Orujyan, and he is from Armenia. He is founding CEO of the Foundation of Armenian Science and Technology. Short form is FAST, F-A-S-T. Armen is also the founder and former chairman of the Athgo Corporation, former advisor at Facebook and the US presidential and other political campaigns. He was also named as UN e-leader for the ICT and youth. He has also served in the United Nations Broadband Commission for Digital Development. Let's welcome our esteemed guest, Dr. Armen Orujyan. Welcome to the show, Dr. Armen.
My pleasure, Aijaz. How have you been?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you so much. So finally, here we have Dr. Armen. Viewers, for what we have been waiting for, we have been coordinating like crazy, and it has been really, really pleasure, and I'm honored to have such a wonderful personality on the show. So I'm not sure if I did justice to your introduction, so why don't you go ahead and tell us where all this craziness has started? How did you get into what you do today? Like, you are everywhere. You are in the United Nations, you're at Facebook, you are working for the presidential campaigns and everywhere, and now you are running your companies, you're a serial entrepreneur. How did all that started?
Well, again, thanks for having me on your show. This is a great opportunity to talk to you and to your constituency, to your listeners. I was actually born in Armenia, and I moved to the United States nearly 30 years ago. So at that time, I lived in Soviet Armenia, so it wasn't, what we imagine Armenia to be today. So it was a very different type of an environment, but we made it to the United States, which gives you all of the opportunities for you to become the entrepreneur, for you to have all of those dreams that you would have in a childhood, for them to become true. So moving to the United States, we had a lot of challenges naturally with language, with new culture, with new country. But year after year, you learn from the opportunities that are given to you. And one of the most telling, one of the most important things was, what can we do for us to have people such as myself that grew up in almost like a disadvantaged environment, for them not to have the challenges in life as I did growing up as a young man in Soviet Armenia, and then the challenges, difficulties we had when we moved to the United States. So some 20 years ago, I had found this organization, Athgo International, which was a platform for young men and women, for them to gain all of those capabilities and capacities that they would have difficulties and challenges for them to acquire themselves. So we started with a small program, but over the years, it turned into one of the prominent entrepreneurial platforms around the world. We had programs at the UN headquarters in New York City, in World Bank headquarters, Washington, D.C. Then we moved to having programs in Africa, in East Europe, in Asia. So this was consuming my life. As you said, I was also a serial entrepreneur, so I have some other business interests that over time came to existence. But then roughly about 2 years ago, after being absent from Armenia for about a decade or so, I was invited to visit just to see what was going on in the country and if I would want to be involved with some of the new developments in Armenia. And one thing led to another, Aijaz, and I'm here now. It's like doing this now. I spent most of my time here in Armenia. About 80% of my time here is here in Armenia, and I love it. It's a great opportunity to actually rebuild this country, especially when it comes to the mission of this the organization that I'm leading, Foundation for Armenian Science and Technology. It's producing an ecosystem that drives scientific advancement and technological innovation And you know very well, especially having these types of platforms where you broadcast and you amplify your voice. Technology is the future, science is the future, and we're trying to bring that to Armenia.
That's wonderful. That's really great. So, how has been your experience? You know, you have been all over the place in terms of the information technology, be it social media, like you have been advising Facebook on different kinds of things, and you have been running campaigns on social media, things like that. Where do you see social media heading? And then we'll come to the ecosystem, definitely, we'll talk about it. But again, I just wanted to hear it from the visionary like yourself. Where are we taking the social media? Is social media taking us away from our families and our other social activities that we normally did in the past? We don't see those things happening anymore. What do you think? Where are we going with social media?
It's a very good and an important question that you're raising, Aijaz. You know, what's the future of social media, and how do we see as individuals? How do we see people within those confines? Well, look, you know, there's always an evolution, and humans themselves, they go through evolution process. And I think this past decade or two, we've figured out how to connect with each other, how to communicate with each other better. And in this process, we evolve as units, we evolve as species. And part of the evolution is how do we also communicate? Like if we go where the humans started and where they are today, and actually there was a discussion that I was having a few days ago about this very subject matter. And what was interesting is, look, when we were a tribal community, our radius was about 10 miles, right? So anything beyond 10 miles was out of our reach, was out of our communication. But the human curiosity, human ingenuity has forced us out of that comfort zone, and we've gone miles, right? We've discovered worlds, we've discovered America, now we're discovering other planets. And as we're doing that, we're also discovering how best we can communicate with one another. You know, a lot of people, when Facebook just took off, they said it's a fad. It's not going to last. It's going to die out. And many other social media platforms that were developed, people would say this is not going to work out because, you know, we need that human touch. We need this and that. But look, over 2 billion people now. You know, nearly 1/3 of the globe is on Facebook, on the platform you and I are speaking. There are also many other platforms that exist, and people successfully are using this. Now, does it take us from families? Yes, absolutely. But it's also part of the evolution. We're looking at structures differently. We're looking at cities differently. We're looking at nations differently. We're looking also at those structures that were so unique, that were so special in the past when it comes to structures of family. We're looking at them differently. So we're not communicating differently. But I bet, you know, it's like my era or your era, Aijaz, when the first radio comes in, when the first television comes in, people say, that's it, that's the end of humanity. You know, like you're not going to be the same thing. And they're right. You know what? They're right in the context that we're no longer the same thing. It's not the end of humanity, but we have evolved. We've evolved with radios, we've evolved with horses. Now we're evolving with this. So when it comes to what's happening with social media, you know, it's another evolution of humans. Where it would lead, I can only guess, I can only speculate. But the fact is, it is an important tool. You and I, we would never meet. You and I, we would never have this conversation if there is not social media out there. But there's definitely advantages to social media. There are disadvantages, but the disadvantages are part of when you begin evolving. You start shedding some of the weight. And when you start shedding some of the weight, that's when it becomes discomfort. So I think the future of it will display itself, but it's not going anywhere. That's for sure.
Great. So let's come to the topic now, ecosystem. So now there is pretty much everything around it it is included by default in the ecosystem. Ecosystem is pretty much everything. It's larger than life. It's the biggest thing, right? So what do you think the ecosystem consists of, according to your expert opinion?
It's a Very, very good question. What
It's a stupid question, but
no, not at all, not at all. There is absolutely, it's actually a very valid question, and it's an important question for all of us to respond to, right? What is an ecosystem? Because it's very easy to say, you know what, I'm within this ecosystem, I'm building an ecosystem, or there's this ecosystem, that ecosystem, but what does that really mean? In this case, when we look at ecosystem, we're looking at something that sits on a tripod. It has intellectual capacity, it has financial capacity, it has network capacity. And within those, we're looking at how, but I just want to have one qualifier. What we're looking at, that exists in the whole universe. What we're looking specifically for science and technology. But this does not set only in science technology. You and I as individuals, we also have an ecosystem that consists of all of those factors. Absolutely. You do have an intellectual capacity, you do have financial capacity, you do have network capacity, and depending what types of qualities you have as an individual within those capacities, you either excel or you don't, right? So then you make some adjustments, you acquire some skills, you go and acquire a skill for you to run a show now on Facebook. That gives you higher intellectual capacity. Because of that, now your networking capacity expands and whatnot. And perhaps you're not there, but at some point it will turn all into financial largesse and you'll become one of the billionaires out there in the world. We're hoping that you will become that. The same thing applies in when it comes to building an ecosystem for science and technology. We're looking into the reality of the country. We're looking into the capacities, and we say what exists right now within those capacities. And if it doesn't exist, whether we can build it and deploy it, and if it does exist and it's not functioning on the highest level, then how can we repurpose that for that to function on the highest level? What would it take? What types of tools and mechanisms do we need to have for us to make that successful adjustment in the ecosystem? So in Armenia, the first thing we did, we started actually digging. We started doing analysis. We started trying to understand what it is that we have here and what is it that we don't have for us to make those types of changes in Armenia. And for us, for instance, we want to make Armenia top 10 innovation country. So you look at that and you say, what is it within those capacities that is really dramatically absent, and what would be the first step for you to build and deploy into the ecosystem? So we've launched several things. We launched first in Armenia's history, Business Angels Network that deals specifically on science and technology, that looks specifically at science and technology. We launched fellowships. We also gender-specific fellowships for PhDs in applied physical biological sciences, in math and engineering. We're building apprenticeship programs, internship programs, grants, venture capital funds, all array of things that would cover all of those areas, from intellectual to financial to network capacities. So ecosystem is the platform that drives a country. And in this case, is the platform that drives science and technology, and we're doing all in our power for us to build that type of an ecosystem in Armenia.
Great. So in today's topic, innovation is really great thing. It's all about innovation, finding new ways to do things in a better way, in an improved way, so that we can get most productivity out of that innovation. What innovation do you think we can bring into the ecosystem that can help humankind, that can help society, that can help the countries?
I think it really depends. There is not one invention that's going to solve all of our needs, and there is not one innovation ecosystem that's going to solve everyone's needs. It really requires some kind of an equilibrium that we need to find for an individual or for a set of individuals, for us to properly offer the tools that are going to be satisfactory for those people. So when it comes to, some places have zero access to education, for instance. So creating educational capacity, creating tools that will provide educational opportunities for people is critical. People, you're not able to make real lasting decision making that when you lack specific educational components. So it's very, very important for educational tools to be in place. In other places, you may have all the educational tools, but you don't have any way for you to get into the market economy. Now, we all know for human survival, you need to be fed, you need to have drink, you need to drink water, you need to have food, and you need to have some kind of a way for you to protect yourself from whether it comes from any kind of security issues impacting yourself as an individual. So these three, they never leave any human being, no matter where you are. You have to eat, you have to drink, you need to be secure. And secure is, it could be from weather, it could be from enemies, it could be from anything else that you can think about. Now, when you bring these three into calculus, and every single individual, regardless of race, regardless of gender, regardless of who you are, where you are, all of these things are impacting you. So when you're looking into this, then you have to see what type of an equilibrium do I need to bring for every single individual in every single situation for you to provide the right sources, right resources for them to get out of those or potentially not fall into agony and always have harmony. So when we look into ecosystems, be it in Armenia, be it in other places that I've looked at, you look at this and you say, what specifically do we need for this particular society for them to function at the highest level? And there is really, unfortunately, there is not a single one invention. And you say, you know what, this is probably the single one invention that helped everyone who was God, but we're not going to get into that discussion today. Outside of that, I think it's all really what type of an equilibrium we're going to create and what would it take for us to be able to make that, make those types of mechanisms, build those types of mechanisms and deploy into the innovation ecosystem.
Great. That's great. So going back, taking a step back, I just heard in the discussion you mentioned, Dr. Armen, that there is not one ecosystem. So there are classifications of the ecosystem according to you. I mean, can we shed a little bit more light on that? Like, our ecosystems are defined according to geography, or according to the human needs, or according to what is the classification that exists in the ecosystem?
Good question. They're dependent on the verticals that you're interested. So when we look at ecosystems that drive science and technology, you have very specific set of tools that will empower and enable science and technology. You don't need one-to-one when you're looking into total economic development, for instance, or if you're looking at an ecosystem when it comes to medicine, when it comes to hard sciences. So when we're looking into ecosystem, you need to define what is that entity, what is that unit that you're trying to fix, what is that unit that needs to function at the highest possible functionality. And every time you look at a unit, and unit could be, as I said, unit could be an individual, unit could be a vertical within economy, a unit could be a country, unit could be a city, and believe it or not, the unit is also our planet. So this is why we have the total ecosystem when we're looking at what carbon dioxide does to the planet itself. We're looking at the ecosystem. Now, when you're looking at that ecosystem, you're not looking at units, meaning you and I as units. You're looking at totality of it. You're looking how this totality, and what types of ingredients you need within this totality for you to promote healthiness within the ecosystem that is the planet Earth, right? So when we're looking into the ecosystem, we look into all of those things. For instance, for science and technology, you may not think directly about roads. You may not think of infrastructure of that nature. You may not need to think about healthcare. But when you're looking into a totality of a country, totality of the nation, you're going to take into consideration a specific ecosystem for healthcare, a specific ecosystem for the infrastructure, and I'm talking about roads, buildings, and things of that nature. And within that, you can also look at the ecosystem of science and technology, for instance. So that would be a subset of a larger ecosystem having its own ingredients. And it's very important for you to segment this, because if you're trying to build or if you're trying to do something on the national level, and if you're looking at a nation through narrower scope, you're probably going to falter at some point, because you're not going to know all the tools and mechanisms that you would require for you to be able to make that type of a development and deployment into the ecosystem, into the proper ecosystem, for instance. So we're very careful in identifying what that means, what type of an ecosystem, what its constituency is, what are its legs, and what types of mechanisms are there. And then you're looking at the interoperability of those mechanisms as well to see how one impacts another. This is where you also will bring in, your performance indicators as well to see whether that one element impacted another. Was it a causation? Was it a correlation? You're looking at all of these instruments or all of these elements before you build the instrument and deployment to the marketplace for you to get a result that's going to be satisfactory, whether it's going to be for you satisfactory or for the constituency that you're developing. So going back to the original question, yes, there is not one single ecosystem that you're looking at. You're always looking at different types of based on whatever it is that you're trying to fix. In this case, we're trying to fix science and technology.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you so much for the detailed answer. Dr. Armen, now here comes a difficult question. So we talked about different verticals, right? We talked about there are different ecosystems that are vertical, that could be personal, that could be geographical, that could be country, that could be society, that could be area dependent, whatever, what have you. Is there one single ecosystem or ecosystem that dissects across, horizontally amongst all those different verticals?
Let me try to understand
the question. Yes.
The question first. You're saying if there is such an element that transcends everything and it just goes through every single one of them.
Yes.
Almost kind of an umbrella.
Yes.
Yes. There is. Absolutely.
Sorry about that.
Very good question.
That just came to my mind.
Well, it's a very good question. Actually, it's a very interesting question, and I'm going to answer it even more interestingly than the question itself. Right. All right. So let's try to do that. Let's see if we can be creative to your creative question here. The top element of anything that we're dealing and we're talking about here is the human. The human is the pinnacle of it, because Aijaz, if we take you and me out of this picture, it doesn't matter. There is no more discussion. There is no more conversation. None of this makes sense. None of this is interesting. None of this is important. So what's important is the human element at the end, because it's through our experiences, it's through our memories, it's through our emotions that we give it a value, that there is a context of an ecosystem. So our ecosystem is as important, if not the most important, than anything else that we're discussing. And our ecosystem has evolved itself. Look, you and I were able to interact together, and I'm in Armenia, and I don't even know where you are, but wherever you are in the planet, right? But we're able to do this. We were not able to do this 50 years ago. That was just not practical. You and I would not even think about this 100 years ago. You and I would probably never know that you and I exist 500 years ago. And then if we go backwards and backwards and backwards, we will see that there was no way for us to think of in the ways that you and I think, if not for the human ecosystem gradually advancing. And the ecosystem within the human is the same as anything else that we've described. You still need to have that intellectual capacity, all of those elements that we've talked about, for you to graduate to this level, for us to now segment and look at science and technology. What's science and technology? You don't think of science when you're just coming out of cave. There is no component. Even if you are creating tools, it's not a scientific discovery for you. It's something that you do. So you don't realize. And then at some point, you kind of have an awakening. And that awakening comes in with gradual expansion of your ecosystem, advancement of your ecosystem. With that, you develop and you generate tools that impact your intellectual capacity directly, impact your network capacity directly, and then you somehow graduate in the level or in the era that you and I are here today, and then we're able to discuss this and look back. I promise you something, Aijaz. I promise you, we're still extremely primitive. Extremely primitive. Today, I was having a discussion about the following. There's at one point or another, we always think that we know something. We've made it. We're the smartest, we're the most brilliant, and whatnot. And I generally like to go to the following example. Some 25 years ago or so, when there was Socrates, when there was Plato, when there was Aristotle, when this whole Western civilization is built on the shoulders of these giants, when we think of these people and we say, you know what, if it wasn't for them, we would absolutely not be wherever we are. You can throw Confucius into this, you can throw anyone else you want to throw into this. What doesn't change is the final equation, the fact that these people at that time thought the world was flat. They were the brightest, smartest people on the planet. They thought the world was flat. We swear by them. We swear by Plato's writing. When he was writing them, he was thinking the earth was flat. We love reading what Socrates was saying through Plato's eyes. He thought the world was flat. I'm saying this because today we're sitting here, we're thinking, we've graduated. We've conquered everything. We've conquered the ocean. Now we're conquering the space. We know everything. We still have in ourselves the earth is flat, not in the context of earth, but something out there. We're so oblivious. And if we don't continuously expand our ecosystem, if we don't continuously expand and advance the mechanisms within our ecosystems, we're going to stay in that bubble of we know everything. And I think building these types of ecosystems, specifically science and technology, but having the human at the forefront of it, thinking that the human is the driver of this. You're doing this because there is a human component. You can't ever forget that. And because of that, I promise you, as I said earlier, we are so primitive. There's something out there we have no idea about, but we have no idea that we don't have an idea about this. We don't know what we don't know.
That's right. Yeah, we have no idea of the idea. Okay, that's really detailed answer. So thank you so much for taking on that stupid question. But
it's not a stupid question. It's a great question.
But I think, as you said, I 100% agree with you, Dr. Armen, that yes, the human ecosystem is on top. It dissects every single ecosystem, and really that has to be focused because it has more breadth and width across all over the place. So thank you so much. Did we miss something that how we can create innovative system? Did I miss something?
I don't think it's about missing anything. It's about being aware of the importance of this, Aijaz. We take this for granted. Most of the people, and it's very unfortunate, most of the people are unaware about many things. And most of the people are project-driven rather than holistic ecosystem-driven. So you jump from one project to another. And I don't mean from one job to another. I'm talking about even at the highest level, on the government level. You're not building anything. You're building growth. You say why? Because we need to create employment. But you're taking one element out of the multitude of things that need to go there. But you're just taking one element and you're focusing on that. In that, you can't really generate success. It always needs to be looked upon in the context, in absolute context of what is all of these things that you're trying to do and how each one interacts with one another, right? So you need all of this. You need all of this to come into the picture. And this is why I say it's not that we're missing anything. It's just not being aware that you actually need to focus not on projects, but on a larger picture. Because within that larger picture, every instrument that you throw into this Even if it's not successful, you can take it out and add another one because you know ultimate goal where ultimate goal is. But if when you are project driven, once your project fails, you're out of the game. You've lost it, and you never want to put yourself in a position when one project can wipe you out, take you out. So because one project, failing project, it's like if you're a forest, if one tree drops, the forest lives on. And whatever has dropped contributes to the growth of the other ones. And any individual is taking on whatever it is that you want to do in life. You always want to think of it within that context. Because anything that you touch, even if it falls, like a tree falls in the forest, it should only serve as a fodder for anything else that's going to grow from that point on, and not wipe you out. Because if you're a tree in a desert, that would be the end of you.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you so much for shedding light on that, Dr. Armen. So since this program is for the youth development and youth empowerment and showing them the light and showing them the path of what is going around or going on with different aspects of the humankind, what would be your final word for the youth?
Oh, a lot. Final word for youth. Look, in life, depending where you are and what's structured around you. Unfortunately, we as young people, we spend many of our most fruitful years unproductive by trying to climb, whether it's professional staircase, whether it's academic successes and what have you. And we're missing out on focus on what it is that you want to become in life and what it is that you want to do in life. I want to go back to this concept of focusing on projects. I think finding a mission in life, it doesn't matter what it is. It really absolutely doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's your mission. And it has to be your mission. If it is your mission, it's going to make you the most successful, the happiest, the most content individual. And this is very important for anyone, because you don't want to burn yourself. You don't want to enslave yourself. You don't want to think that you're going to work. You want to know that this is who you are and this is what you do. It's not work for you. You don't take vacations from work. You don't take vacations from life. You want to live life, and anything that you do is a vacation itself. So if you want to go do something, somewhere in tropical islands and whatnot, it's great, but it's part of the life that you're living. You're not leaving work for you to go and do that. And this is critical because we miss this. We're not taught well about this. We're kind of robots, right? You go to school, they teach you, they give you certain types of knowledge, and then they say you're going to graduate, you're going to go to college. After that, you're going to submit resumes. And then you send 300 resumes, someone calls you, whoever calls you, just get that job, and it becomes a job. Actually, it's normal process. But if you are mission-oriented, then everything that you do, including the education that you get, it's like what you take. When you read a book, you don't remember every single word that you read in the book. You've read 300 pages. There's 2-3 passages that stay with you. Now, if you are a mission-oriented, mission-specific person, from that book, you're going to take those 2-3 passages that are going to be specific to whatever it is that you want to do. And that's going to come at some point in your life and really help you to get to the next phase. So take that passage in every single thing that you do in life, the same way that passage that you would take from the book. And take that passage and apply it in ways that is going to only empower you, make you a better person, make you feel that you belong, make you feel as your fabric of this universe, fabric of this planet, fabric of your family, fabric of your country, fabric of your city. So every effort that you do from that point on is going to be deep in your heart, and you're going to be successful no matter what happens, no matter what it is that you do. You're going to be laughing throughout and smiling throughout your life. And this is what I would want to leave you with.
Awesome. That's a great message. That's a great message. So the official part of the show is over, Dr. Armen.
Okay.
Now there is another part of the show, which is the lighter part of the show. Now we talk professionally and everything, and here comes the lighter part is, I see you and I'm talking to someone from Hollywood. Okay. I see a movie star. I see an action hero. I see, uh, you know, um, uh, those love stories, hero. And have you ever thought about your personal appearance and like you're a movie material, if I may say, if you allow me to say that.
Okay. Thank you, I suppose. Okay, so what's the question?
So the question is, have you ever thought about getting into the that side of the world, like getting into the movies?
Right.
I know you're an entrepreneur. You're a serial entrepreneur, serious person. But again, serious people can get into the movies as well. Why not?
Good, very interesting. Bollywood never called.
They should be calling.
Yeah, so Bollywood never called. I actually, early years, some 25 years ago or so, I did some acting actually. I've done some of that work when I was 19, 20 or so. But that was
that was not included in the profile. I had to get it out of you. How can such a wonderful personality not think about that?
Oh, thank you. Yes, I did some of that, but it wasn't me. It was fun. Naturally, it's very entertainment field is beautiful. Nothing taken away. It is entertaining. I just thought that my world is slightly different. Entertainment is great, but equally great is whatever I'm doing in being an entrepreneur, being whoever I am now in life. So I've played with that, and it was great. It was fun. Learned from that as well. But whether, I'm thinking of it now, definitely not. It's like I think of it in a different context. I think of media and entertainment and how that could be leveraged for us to achieve the results that we want to achieve. And there is a lot, there's a lot of educational components in media and entertainment, and naturally larger amplified messages, broadcasting, whatever it is that you're trying to do, but no longer looking at this as purely entertainment, me appearing on shows or movies or anything of that nature. I'm not closing the door on that, right? So yeah, Hollywood or Bollywood, call me.
All right, so you're open. Let me make some connections and let's get you into a Hollywood movie.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Great. Well, I hope you didn't mind that lighter side of me. And when I saw you for the first time, when I saw your picture, when Armen sent me the picture, it was amazing. And I said, what? I mean, am I going to talk to this person? It's a privilege and honor, seriously. So thank you so much. And that was the lighter side of the show. We don't want to make this show purely dry. I tried to do that, but again, since our topic was so serious that I could not interject that in the middle. So I said, okay, let's cut it into two segments. And one is we deliver the message. The second is we talk personally. Thank you so much.
With pleasure.
So that's another ecosystem that you can consider, like the media and entertainment, right? So there could be lots of innovation in that as well, right?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So finally, how was your experience on the show? Please tell me.
Well, you're fun. Thanks for having me here. It's really great. You ask wonderful questions and you've got beautiful energy. And I think you care about what you're doing, and that's fantastic. So I'm really glad and I'm privileged to be on your show, and I'm glad that you're doing this because I think the types of questions or types of topics that you're looking at is important for not only your constituency but also people that I'm working with and whatnot. So I'm glad that you're doing this. Appreciate it, and I'd like to share too with an A there for Aijaz.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. Thank you so much on behalf of Dreams Television, the Daydreamers Show. It's all about daydreaming. We can only achieve our targets and goals if we daydream. If we see them with our eyes open, only then we can achieve those targets. So this is all about that. Youth empowerment, and everything. So thank you once again on behalf of our viewers who have watched this live or who will be watching later on. I thank everyone, and a special thank goes to you, Dr. Armen.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you. All right, viewers, that was Dr. Armen Orujyan, and we will come back again with another esteemed guest like Dr. Armen. All right, take care.
Thank you.